and welcome to the New World Review. I'm Grandline Waifu, and I am here to tell you all the things I happen to know about the characters in episodes 100 and 101. Episodes 100 and 101? We made it 100 in. Yay me. As I characters from episodes, big number. I learned from watching those episodes and nothing more. You'd better believe we have an octopus featuring in today's review, but when I say octopus, I mean Octopus of Doom. Doom. All hail our eight-limbed overlords who would genuinely take over the world if there were more water, and we would welcome them, for they are wise. Anyway, episode 100, and we continue to follow Killua and Gon through their individual situations. Killua caught the attention of Simba and co, and now he's being hunted down, which makes sense because baby Simba, Pito, told big Simba, is he Mufasa, to stop the problem. This is the first time ever that we have seen Killua genuinely being Killua. So named because he's gonna kill one hell of a lot of bugs. Killua got to be impressive today. We got to see how Killua interacts with enemies and how his abilities as an assassin combine with those he's learned as a hunter. And it's pretty damn magnificent, really. All the precision he had when he started the exam, all the dangerous aspects of him when he was at the start are now fully on display in a way that we've never seen them. We've always seen little pieces of Killua being the assassin he is. We've seen all those glances, the sharpness that arrives when he has an enemy in his sights, but we've never just seen him using his raw ability without hesitation or concern because he's not looking after someone or concerned about them. And that makes sense because I don't know that we've ever seen anyone in this show use every ounce of their abilities unless they're about to die, have lost control of themselves, or are gone. Gon is the only one I think we've seen who has reached the limit of their abilities publicly and lived to tell of it, which may be why Killua waits until they've separated to use the full extent of his. Don't share, don't tell, keep your secret. Gon doesn't do that. Gon doesn't know how. Beyond that, Killua's in a situation where if he doesn't, he'll die. There's the aspect to it that if you see someone's full ability, that might be the last thing you see. And that's a good point, actually, because we haven't seen anyone using the full extent of their power but Gon. We don't often go into Gon's mind, but we see everything he has to give as a combat. Conversely, we're often in Killua's mind, but not seeing what he can do as a fighter. In this moment, we couldn't be as far into Killua's mind as we wanted to be, so Takashi had to bring in a narrator to tell us what Killua's doing. It's so rare that we get mid-episode narration, or at least it's rare that I've noticed it this far into an episode, because Takashi seems to prefer to have an observer note something about someone rather than something very far outside of all of this highlights that Killua is entirely alone. He's alone with his thoughts, and anyone observing him is an enemy, which brings even more sharply into focus exactly what's happening for him. He had all his standard thoughts, but why explain to himself what he's about to do? Thinking about it in broad terms was enough, and then to slow it down and drop the color so we could focus on form and shape rather than the wounding effect the flea bullet would have, and that was beautifully composed. Speaking of flea bullet, okay, so we have a gun-armed bug man. Did the queen eat a gun? Because as much as the idea of the fleas being shot is very rule of cool, i.e. cool idea, let's do it, I'm not sure what animals such a bug could be replicating, and it felt like a cop-out from such an inventive creative. Yes, it's a flesh suit, but the octopus steals bodies from others, which means the body has to exist, and I just liked the personality of the character, but it destroyed my emotion in the world and the story to have something like that appear. I don't know. Maybe he built a gun and shoved it into his flea-dispersing ball sack? Takashi has been so carefully researched about most of the show and generally carefully considered about the world and its inhabitants, and I feel like the idea could have been better thought out. There just needed to be an out or a way to draw Killua to water to show off the effect the chimera ants had on sea life. And the octopus. The literal grumpy octopus. He's cute. I'll grant him that. I was gonna say more, but I think that's all that needs to be said right now. It's a cute idea and I accept that offering. Gimme. Gon now. How is Gon getting on without Killua? Well, Gon's wandering in a random desert and fraternizing with an enemy who's smarter than he is. That's how Gon's getting on. Why Gon would immediately trust the chameleon, no one knows, but he has, and that's all there is to it, right? It's Gon. Whether he actually does believe Chameleon Guy or not, the Chameleon Guy, let's call him Camelon. Camelon. Who doesn't like? Was caught off guard because who would be stupid enough to do that? He found himself a brawny kid, and now he can use that brawny kid to his own ends. And if I'm entirely honest, I feel like I've lost track of exactly what the story is and why we're in a desert. I somewhat understand what happened to Killua because he was following the story, but since I watch only 2 episodes a week, I don't actually know what Gon was doing 6 episodes ago or so when they split up. So it really reads to me, who does many other things in a week and doesn't remember that far back, like Gon just left Killua got into a fight with some people who wanted to kill him, and now he's sort of joined the bug mafia. I might be projecting the bug mafia part because I really miss that besuited koala, so maybe I can wish him back into being. I know you're out there, Koali. I miss you. All in all, getting to see Killua just flat out kill everyone who stood in his path until he got to the octopus was great, so I call it a 100th episode. Well done! Yes, thumbs up from me. Onward to the next century. Episode 101 was all about Killua, and honestly, I loved it all. Killua is one of my favorite characters, and I think possibly one of the most developed in the series, if not the most developed. Our favorite characters in stories are rarely the main protagonists, because there's so much information we get about them that we can imprint aspects of ourselves onto them. Or at least that's why I think it happens. We identify with the main character because we're supposed to in some way, so it's left open so we can fill it with us. Which is why this show works, because it shifts the lens around so much. And in this case, the lens shifted between two characters. Calgo, not an octopus boy, and Killua. But it also shifted outside them both to continue that theme of narration that highlighted just how alone Killua was in that cave, something we haven't experienced with him. In fact, that he was alone made the episode both heartbreaking and beautiful, because we knew he'd done something to help not an octopus boy, and surely that meant Calgo would help him in some way. The two narrated bits from the last two episodes combined to create a new chunk of information. Killua gets to learn about how his powers work. More interestingly and more wonderfully from my perspective, we got to see him begin to link his assassination abilities with his Nen ones, because to now a lot of what has been happening seemed to be a shift between the two. The use of his Nen to heighten his trained skills is a beautiful harmony, and learning that at the point where he realized he would die was a great victory over both his family and the doubts the character held so long thanks to Illumi's behavior. You know, like stabbing a needle into his head. Another special skill of Killua's is not just learning from what's happening, but sacrificing his body to learn more. While Gon uses that information immediately to make a difference to his next action, as in everything, Killua is more considered and precise. Like his creepy not human hands, Killua is a scalpel, while Gon is a sledgehammer. And it's important to use the correct tool for the job. I do wonder as well whether Gon would have been able to deal with the mer-creature dartboard situation alone. I don't think he could have. It would have been a steamy affair because he couldn't have figured out what was happening and reacted to it impulsively. And he doesn't brain that way. It required deep thought, and then it required enough presence of mind to remember that if they didn't think he was dead, they wouldn't come out of the water to check on him, and he would still be in danger from some of the most annoyingly misogynistic creatures I've seen in this show. He reminded me of exactly that one guy at all the corporate drinks I've ever attended, and it was such a power move for Takashi to make them so annoying that they didn't stop talking even when their heads were cut off. Metaphorically, it was great. Practically, it was fun, and that's something that has been coming up a lot in the most recent episodes that we've sort of lost for a while. I adore drama. Give me intense psychological thriller for months on end, constantly just pump it into my veins. But there's so much to be gained from taking the time out for absurdity to come in and shift the language. And maybe that's what was being flagged by Calgo occupying a body that had a gun for an arm. And when I say absurdity, I do mean in the context of this show. The whole situation is absurd, and the Chimera Ants are sort of breaking down the barriers between absurdity and reality the longer the series go on, which is fun to explore and fun to watch. Reality is morphing, and things that would have been odd before, like a talking octopus ready to sacrifice himself in the hopes that he reincarnates as a squid, that's just normal. That's expected. For some odd reason, that's now high drama, and we can't stop it. It's a shift. Speaking of shift, while Killua's getting killed, Gon's laying down some rules with his Camellan friend who can't get a measure of his aura. And we now have the two traitors to Chimera kind in the party as shown by the outro. Oh yes, I notice things. Oh yes, that I do. But back to Killua lying in a pool of his own blood that surprises him. The calm with which he approaches death is incredible. The breakdown in thought is realistic and the scripting is so curious. It was a beautiful scene. I reveled in the beauty of those existential questions and bodily awareness. As with everything else, Killua was locked in an observer mode, seeing things play out in front of and inside himself. And yes, I'm going to use the word again. That beauty and special skill is what Killua has, really. Not just his ability to observe and question what's around him and why, but his ability to do so detached from his own physical experience of what's happening. The voice acting in that moment was simple and clear and heartfelt and accepting and real. It's knowing. And one of the saddest things about it is that we know he has to have experienced enough pain in the past to learn to desensitize to it, even before the body body dissociates to try to protect it. What we've had for the last couple of episodes is a Killua unfettered by the effects of his brother trying to stop him taking risks. The result is extreme risk-taking, and this is the consequence. Now he knows exactly what it feels like. What impact will that have on how he acts going forward? I'd like to know, but I guess to learn that we have to know if he survives, and that's not something I know right now, so I guess that's it from me. If you enjoyed the meditative stroll through Killua and a little bit of Gon, click here, maybe here. Don't be afraid to tap that bell, hit subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll see you next time.